the Crazy Agent Dinner Party.
Nobody else is. Just
Part group therapy, part inspiration, entirely for real estate agents to dish on this crazy business we're in.
Yeah, actually. my mom would be like, Amanda, I cannot.
Come on in, have a seat at our table. And remember, real estate is crazy, and you don't have to be. Welcome to the Crazy Agent Dinner Party, where we dish on this crazy industry known as real estate. Here are your hostesses with the mostesses, with a combined 40 plus years in real estate, coach, Konversion, Kourtney, and the real estate mom you never knew you needed, Amanda, the marketing mama. On today's menu, we're dishing up navigating contracts, choosing your hard place.
I know. I look at your eyes and I was like, there's a lot to this one.
I mean,
we are going to need
this is the
shows,
hardest.
right?
I feel like this might be an entire lifetime of seasons that never ends because that's your job, really, right? You navigate the contracts. That's what we do. We are the captain of that ship. We are the circus ringleader, and yes, these are our monkeys. So again, agents, welcome to our weekly dinner party where we gather together for part group therapy, part inspiration, and absolutely entirely for agents to, again, learn a little bit of something about real estate life, hopefully sell more real estate, and of course, always have fun doing it. That's always our goal, right?
have fun doing it.
I mean, otherwise, why do it?
Have fun doing it.
Right? Exactly. So for starters, again, contract negotiations can get a little hairy, can get a little wild, it can get a little nutso. But the main thing that you can do to prevent it from being these series of tiny catastrophes is understanding your contractual deadlines. Like that is the bare minimum that you should do. And even if you have a TC, which is a transaction coordinator, you should be fully aware of the dates and you should be preparing yourself and your client for the next steps entirely along the way. So for my team, we add it to in our CRM, we add it to our appointments in our calendar. And that reminds everybody, hey, this is what's coming up. This is what needs to be done. And they get a reminder, they get a text reminder. There's no chance in missing a deadline. And what are some of the tools that you have used to kind of reel yourself into those contractual deadlines?
I think, too, to back it up a step, really, I'm not an attorney, right? I don't pretend to be. I don't play one on TV.
Right.
It's important to know the contract.
Well, that's really the thing.
What the deadlines mean.
This is what kills me about real estate agents. Number one, you're not an attorney, but you get paid more than an attorney does. Number one. Number two, the lender is not an attorney. The title agent is not an attorney, but you'd be darned tootin' that they all have read that contract and they stick by those deadlines and guidelines. Yeah. That's the very least that you can do. You're a professional. You sell houses for a living. Put your big girl pants on. Let's get going.
I'm with you to answer your question. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's in my calendar. All my deadlines are in my calendar, and I get an email every single contract deadline. Yeah. And I mean, I had an agent we came across. He's like, "Oh, it's okay. We don't need to really pay attention to that deadline." And I was like,
"What deadline was it?"
No, we need to.
Yeah,
it was getting title work, right? And yeah, it may not be a big deal, although it might be a big deal.
Jenny, did we not just have one? Last month, did we not just have one? Right, where I'm like, how did they not know this? They didn't use our title company, but it was one of our agents who had a listing, and guess what? The tenancy was not correct. And so they couldn't even sell without going into probate. Like, that's huge. Guess when they found out about it? Jenny?
Was it the week of closing?
I think it was the day before closing.
The day before closing.
How does that even happen?
And that's huge.
That's
right?
why you need to know what your contract deadlines are, because you should set an alarm. Listen, you can't control everything, but if you know what you're up against and you have kind of solutions before it becomes a problem, then there's usually not problems. I always say no surprises makes for happy clients for life. Yeah. So, and that's really what it's about.
Yeah, and the big thing too on that with your example of the title is like the listing agent should pull an O&E, right? They should have known that ahead of time before it was even listed that it was in a trust and not in the seller's.
It wasn't in a trust.
There's so many checks and balances that should have happened.
The thing. So that's where I'm saying there's so many different variables. It wasn't in a trust, and it was by basic, public record. I could understand why she got to that conclusion, if you will, because it clearly stated, like, they had the will the one way and da 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 da. But tenancy, is it called tenancy? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, well, it's basically what it boils down to is who holds title.
Right.
But that comes through
Right.
in the title search, which
Right.
should come within
way earlier, like
10 days
way
at the
earlier.
extreme.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and the deadlines are there, right? And we know that they're there, and there's ways to extend it. So if it is going to take time to pull title, we can extend it. It's important, though, to know the deadlines, to not let them slip, because I am, you are, we all are, we're protecting our clients. And the best way to protect our clients is to know the deadlines and be aware of the deadlines, be aware of what the deadlines mean.
Correct.
And the significance behind the deadlines.
Yeah, and then also, guess what, guys? If you need more time, like instead of trying to like fit a square peg into a round hole, just extend the deadline. Like that is the logical solution, other than just settling for, well, we don't have an answer for this, but we're just going to have to, you're going to lose your escrow if you don't. No, just get more time so you get more information. And that really is what it boils down to. I think a lot of times is that it's one of those things that if you don't know, then you don't know until you know. And then you're like, wait, now I know. And that's how real estate is, right? And so for me, it's always like, well, we don't have enough information to make that decision yet. And so the number one deadline that comes up is your inspection period.
Inspection deadline.
So I don't know about you guys in Colorado, but here in Florida, roof age is like a huge deal. We've had like a lot of roof fraud, and so it becomes kind of like the top tier priority. If we have even a hint or a whisper of a roof that is over 10 years old, we need to like immediately get insurance quotes, because if we cannot get the home insured, then we need to renegotiate, right? Because if it can't be insured, then they're not going to be able to sell it to anybody that's financing. And so that's a leverage point that you can use as an agent to your advantage if you're representing the buyer. If you're representing the seller, you should know that as well, so that before you even list the property, you can prepare your seller with their cash to close, their net that they're going to be receiving, their net proceeds, I should say. And so I feel like those are just like kind of the bare minimum standards, understanding like within the inspection period, because guess what? Are you an inspector?
I am not an inspector. Not an attorney, not an inspector.
Are you a roofer?
Not a roofer.
What about a handyman?
Not a plumber, not a handyman.
Are you sure? Like literally, that's what I'm saying. Like I get it. Like one of the hardest things about being the real estate agent is that you're basically the superstar. You're like the person that they go to. You are the spokesmodel, if you will, of the real estate transaction, right? And so the client like looks to you for answers to questions that, unless you're a roofer, you don't have the answers to, right?
Yeah,
and so that's why
it's important for us to guide them.
Right.
To that, right.
And you're not the insurance person, so you need to get the answers within those deadlines. And so to me, again, carte blanche, older than 10 years, you need to be getting that insurance quote like immediately. Quotes, plural, ideally, because quotes can vary. Like we had a foundation quote that was teeny tiny, and then we had another one that was like for the same house, $14,000 more. So something smells fishy here, but you know what I'm saying. So, and you never know somebody's motivation, but that's really key, is understanding you have X amount of days that you've negotiated. So that means, guess what you're doing day one? You are getting those things lined up. Now I get it if you have to get quotes for things that require a human being to physically come there to like look at things, that does become a little hairy, because, ideally you want to get them all done at the same time. But to me, if you are spending that much time during the inspection contingency to protect your client, you have earned that client's business for life and their friends and their family. And that's the way that you have to look at it. You're being of helpful service, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I
think it's important too, along those lines, is when something does come up, and when something comes up and the buyer wants it fixed, replaced, or whatever, we go through the list of what's important, what's the importance, like what are the big things, and then they lean on us to have those hard conversations with the other agent,
right,
to be able to negotiate.
Exactly.
And so as an agent, and if we don't do that, then we're doing a disservice to our client, right? And so like I had an example where the agent was like, I don't want to call the other agent, I just want to send over our objection. And I always call the other agent. I want the
We're problem solving together. We're working together to get toward that shared goal. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's insane to me. Yeah. Well, and that's really, again, choosing your hard place. What did you say earlier, Jenny? Like, do you want to have the hard conversation, or do you want to lose the client? Lose the client.
Which both are hard.
They're both hard. Like,
which one isn't going to be?
Both very, very hard. I had, oh my gosh, I've never had this before. I had to cancel I cancel. Have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to cancel a cancellation?
We call it different. We survive, right, to survive the contract. So it's...
I'm like, what is happening? Like, no, we don't cancel the cancel. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm ridiculous. But my point, like, and again, I felt like a bad leader. I was out of town, but I'm like, guys, like, why would we cancel? Because they were up against that deadline. And it, again, this is outside of the box. It was one of those flat fee MLS listings. And so there was no listing agent really. So we're dealing with a seller who was AWOL, like just ghosted, disappeared. And I get it. In their mind, they were thinking like, oh, he's probably already nurturing backup offers and say we don't really have a chance. I don't know. Either way, ask for more time and find it.
They might have felt like they need to protect the earnest money.
But
right?
Yes, but here's the hard place they were up against. The deadline of the inspection contingency and the repairs needed. The repairs needed were like maybe $100 worth. Like, okay, so maybe let's just say we pass over the inspection, like we send them the desire to extend that, right? The desire to extend it is our communication with them. That's our desire to extend it. So the escrow would be protected.
Oh, you guys don't have to get it in writing? We'll have to amend it in writing.
Well, yeah, they have to sign it as well to make it whatever.
By a specific deadline?
Right. Well, usually whatever it says it in there. Yeah. So whatever it says is what you have to abide by, of course. And so viably, yes, if they never responded back, yeah, you would walk away. Or you would say, hey, you know what? I think I'll spend $100 and fix that little hole for you. Right? I mean, that's where I'm talking about, like understanding, like, how hard is your hard place? Is it a hard conversation, or is it like simply filling in a wood thing so that you can get a VA appraisal approved, right? That's where you gotta have to use a little bit of like, oh, well, what exactly is the hurdle that we're needing to jump over? And if it's a brand new roof, that's a pretty huge hurdle. If it is filling in some wood so that, you don't have any holes in walls, which is something that you can't have for property condition for VA financing, well, yeah, we're gonna maybe like figure out a way to make that make sense to like hold the deal together, right? Like in my opinion.
Well, and it comes down to like a buyer who wants to buy, seller who wants to sell.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do to make it work, right? Mm-hmm. We're not going to go out of our way to not make it work.
Correct.
Because we represent our buyers.
Right.
And it's important to know our value
mm-hmm.
and for the buyers to know our value.
Exactly.
Because if they don't, then that leaves us like with a job that's not even viable.
Right.
However, our job's important. The contract
Absolutely
is important.
Mm-hmm.
Following the deadlines is important. Mm-hmm. And as agents who are professionals, it's important to follow those deadlines. Mm-hmm. The buyers are counting on us. The sellers are counting on us.
Right.
And everybody else, because we navigate the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so if something goes awry, even if it's the lender or it's the inspector, like I'm responsible. I take full responsibility because it's on me to navigate the entire process.
Exactly. Well, let's dig into the main course here. I actually have, I'm not harboring any resentment over this, I promise. If it comes off as that, it is not. But I was shocked at what kind of transpired. So last summer I sold a property and everything like went off without a hitch. Like we had gone through everything, it appraised well over, the property condition was fine. I represented the sellers. And we were outside of all of our contingency periods. Yay. We're home free. We've done our due diligence. We're good to go. The buyer's lender did not have a clear to close by the time that we needed it for TRID, for that 3-day rule. And so we needed to sell in order to buy their new house that they were moving into. Well, we can't have them vacate the property without the clear to close because where are they going to go? They're retired or whatnot. Well, this other agent, I don't know if it was her first deal in a while or ever. I don't know. I didn't pry, but lost her mind over it. Like I had to block her, which I've never had to do in 21 years. I had to block her from calling because she was like calling and yelling and screaming. And I'm like, this is, number one, not a way to treat people. But she also and her husband went to the seller's residence and basically heckled them. It was really, really bad. And yeah, like that's super, super crazy. That's a hard place. Like we've done our due diligence. We've done everything we said we were going to do. No, we're not leaving until we have a clear to close so that we know that we can close. They also have 5 dogs, by the way. So yay, fun. And so for the solution, the hard, choose my hard, right? Like could we sit there and battle it out while, they're again, retired with all their dogs? Or how about this? I'm going to cover a hotel for you and your pets for 2 days until their lender works this out. Now, I would not just like willy-nilly throw my credit card up there and make that stuff happen. I actually asked the lender to see the conditions sheet from his underwriter, which he gladly provided because he had his tail between his legs a little bit since he had kind of screwed the pooch there. And I saw
literally
five pooches. And right, honestly. They actually got to leave the dogs on the premises. They had like a really fun, like a kennel run. So they're used to being outside, like hunting dogs. But in any event, it was just one of those things where like, God, choose the hard. Do I want to have this wonderful retired couple like getting heckled by like basically a disgruntled agent who was like, you're out of deadline. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like the contingency period has now ended. Like, no, we don't want to go to court, but we also don't want to move out of a house that we don't have a viable proof that we can sell, and that's up to you. That you're the buyer. You have to prove that you're buying it, and so it was just one of those things. So have you ever had to like buy a hotel room or three?
I have, and I also feel like it's important. When I work with good agents, I let them know, like
100%. Yes, and then when I've never had that happen before, but like literally, I did not even rise to that. I didn't fight back at all. I actually called her broker, and her broker, he tried to pull this off. I'm just an old country boy. And I'm like, I grew up on a farm. We're birds of a feather. Like, don't try to, yeah, I know what you're barking up here. Still, we need a clear to close. So, but yes, when you work with a good agent that gets it, that understands, and that we can work together. The very least you could do was not go to the house and heckle the sellers, number one. But also maybe offer to pay for the hotel if you want to have them completely out of the property for the final walkthrough.
Yeah, they're and I think that comes with experience, right?
Exactly.
I think I know that it comes with experience, and so if that ever came up again, maybe this agent would be like, "Oh, this." I mean, I don't know this agent heckling the sellers is something that it's like unheard of.
I never have had that happen. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then how do you make concessions for that to the sellers? You're like, yeah, I'm so sorry. That's not right. Like we've done everything we're supposed to do. I don't understand. It's never happened to me.
Well, and it's about having a good experience, right? So you're making through the deadlines. It's a very emotional experience for the buyers and for the sellers. And I always relate it to the top 5 things, most stressful things people go through. And it's death, divorce, marriage, having a baby, and buying a house.
Also, going to IKEA and then building IKEA furniture together is also on that list. Tell me I'm wrong. That is the portal to hell. I'm telling you guys.
I would take that.
Honest. I mean, I like going by myself, but do not go with your spouse. It is like just thousands of fights waiting to happen. I'm like, I don't know. I don't speak whatever this is.
I'm
terrible.
Adding that to my list.
Please do. There's six of the most stressful things. I'm not even kidding.
It's important for us to keep our cool, right?
Yeah.
And work together, the other agent, follow those deadlines, because if we don't follow those deadlines, then we have no grounds to come back on. They didn't follow the deadline. Did they extend the deadline?
And that's what I said. I'm like, you didn't even extend it.
They could have. They might have extended.
And in her defense, I see why she didn't, because the lender did put in writing that we will have our clear to close, and then he didn't. So, blah 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 blah. That's the whole thing. This is your circus. These are your monkeys. Like, get it together.
Yeah.
Understand, stuff happens, but that's why having the deadlines there and knowing what needs to actually physically happen for the next thing in the process is vitally important. So if you don't know that, ask. Ask the people that you're working with. Ask your partners within the contract, right? Like, ask the title company. You should be speaking with your whoever is financing the property weekly, in my opinion. If they've just ghosted and you have no idea whether you're closing or not, then how can you in good conscience feel like you're doing anybody a service?
Anybody a service.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and obviously you have to take people at their word, and it can definitely backfire. But that's why you have contracts that have some, get out of jail free cards and money on the table if they can't, right? So.
And so what, Amanda? What would be the icing on the cake here? And it's hard, right? Like a contract. Like we're dealing with lots of deadlines, closings. What is the icing on the cake?
You know what? To me, I think one of the things I heard somebody say, like, I was at a a women's council lunch or whatever, and I heard an agent kind of complaining that like, well, I emailed them like 30 times, and that's obviously that's girl math, I think. But I told them like what's happening next. Remember that they don't do this for a living, especially if they're a first-time buyer. They're like scared shitless, like they want to know what's happening. And so I think it's your duty, it's your honor, in my opinion, to be able to communicate effectively and walk them through it like the whole time. If you have any questions, let me speak to you. Not only am I going to email you and text you, but I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to remind you of the next steps. I'm going to utilize the time during that home inspection to ease your fears and let you know that, hey, guess what? A $200, cosmetic thing is not a reason to let that, threat of buyer's remorse kill the whole deal. Like, be present and in the moment and understand during those contingency periods what they're feeling, right? I always say that you're negotiating 3 times in every contract. Well, maybe several times before you get it accepted. But then once it's accepted, you negotiate during inspection and then you negotiate during financing, because it doesn't always bode the contract price, right? Which is a whole other bag of worms. We'll dig into one of that, like on a whole entire episode we'll dedicate to like the low appraisal, of course. But you should be prepared to negotiate not only with the opposing party, or I wouldn't say opposing, the other party, because you're not opposing, you're actually working together, right? You know what the icing on the cake is? This is what it is. I don't know what your negotiation style is, but mine is tightrope walking. I believe we're both walking a tightrope. And so that means we have to like keep our balance, be cool. Don't be all uncool. Don't be all like heckling from like a crazy person. But honestly, like work together as professional people that do this for a living and then communicate effectively. And don't take things personally. Like that's the biggest deal. Yeah. It's not personal, like at all. Like it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's literally just you're just working your job. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I love it.
I mean,
I love the tightrope. I love the tightrope.
Because honestly, if you get too crazy, everybody's going to fall off. Mm-hmm. You're going to break ribs, limbs, necks, who knows? It should be a delicate little balance. It's not a death battle royale, y'all. It is not. I don't like the word hate. But when an agent comes at me guns blazing like that, I almost have to laugh a little bit because I'm like, oh, this is going to be so much fun.
Take breath. Let's meditate.
Right. Well, you can meditate, but I will be like, ha, 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 ha. Let's see how this, let me just roll up my sleeves and underestimate me. That'll be so much more fun. But yeah, like truly, like it's just not a personal thing. It's not a vendetta. It is a professional job that you get paid a lot of money for, and you should really take it seriously. And dude, put the contract deadlines on your calendar. Bare minimum. Even if you have a TC, that's the takeaway. Even if you have a TC, you should know what's going on.
Yeah, make those deadlines.
It's your responsibility. Yeah. You are the spokesmodel.
So don't forget to click on the link for your weekly virtual to-go box. This week, we're going to be featuring a really helpful sheet that you can give to your clients that basically says, why are you hiring an agent to begin with? It's all about the negotiation. Regular people might not be able to do it, but we can.
And the value that we bring.
Right, because it's negotiation, it's research, it's data, it's protecting your interest, it's literally being an advocate for you, the consumer, on all things real estate. So I think that you're going to find great use for it, whether you're using it for a buyer or a seller, but just in general, to remind yourself of what your job is, because it's a great job. It's a lot of fun, and I hope that letting our lives work for you a little bit makes you less like a lonely island and more like a one big happy crazy agent family.
Yeah, because this shit happens, right?
It's just real estate life. Live it.
I love that we have a lot of experience and we've encountered a lot of things. And we would love to hear from you guys. Send us a video, message us. We want to talk to you and we want to hear what experiences you guys have had.
And what you need help with.
And what they need help with, right? And because our next show is about the craziest things that have happened in real estate. And you are going to want to listen to it because I guarantee
it's salacious. It's crazy. It's worse fires and affairs and
stacks collapsing.
Like the book of Revelations, basically. No, it's a lot. Like, and when you really think about it, it just gets even funnier, honestly. It's just, that's why you have to remember that real estate, It's crazy.
And you don't have to be.